Hi guys, Marvelous Joe here. I just wanted to tell you up top about a new podcast Marvel has put out, their first scripted podcast that is now available exclusively on Stitcher Premium. It's called Wolverine: The Long Night, and it's awesome so far. The 10-episode story takes place in Burns, Alaska, and it follows a pair of special agents who investigate a series of mysterious deaths. It stars Celia Keenan-Bolger and Otto Asando as agents Pierce and Marshall, with Richard Armitage as Wolverine. Richard Armitage being the guy who played Thorin Oakenshield, the dwarf leader from the Hobbit films, who I think looks a lot like Hugh Jackman, and sounds like him from what I've heard so far. I'll play a clip of the trailer so you listeners can hear for yourselves.
My memory is a mess. More and more stuff's coming back. Sometimes I wake up naked in the woods with a taste of blood in my mouth, and I think, what have you done?
Look, I'm telling you, man.
Logan,
This guy is a psycho.
what have you done?
People are getting cut to pieces. He's to blame.
So you think Logan's a good person?
I do.
Came here because I was running.
Logan,
Running from myself.
Logan, please.
But I'm not gonna run again.
I promise.
Maybe he's good then.
No. I'm one of the good guys.
Or maybe not.
Killing is a sin, isn't it? So I'm a sinner. All right.
How about that, huh? The production quality of the podcast sounds amazing. Marvel really put a lot of work into this one. So if you're as excited about Marvel's foray into scripted podcasts as I am, you should definitely visit stitcher.com/premium and enter promo code DUEL, that's DUEL, to receive 1 month for free. Again, use promo code DUEL and you can listen to Wolverine: The Long Night that first month free. It's absolutely worth it, and I just have to say, what a time to be a Marvel fan. Okay, on with the show. Hi, welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in crossover battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC. And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe. And this episode is another Duel episode, and one I've been looking forward to since we started this podcast. Well, yeah, it deals with an A-lister for DC, Green Lantern. Yeah, for sure. And you're going up against Nova, and I know almost nothing about him. You don't know anything about Nova? No, yeah. And the Green Lantern we're going with is Hal Jordan. We've done a Green Lantern in the past before, Chip. So, but this is like the Green Lantern. If you don't know anything about Nova, I can already tell you that you're underestimating him. Prepare to be Nova'd. I think most people know about Hal Jordan. I think most, like, when you think he had a shitty movie. No, he was also like in the Super Friends. He was also... If you want to hear more about that shitty movie, go ahead and listen to our last episode. Where we review the Green Lantern film. In preparation for this one. Yeah, we're doing this duel, Green Lantern versus Nova, as a kind of St. Patrick's Day celebration. So hopefully you're wearing green while listening to this podcast, or we will reach through your phone and pinch your bottom. With the Green Lantern construct. Yeah. All right. Before we get into the main event, the news we're going to be going over this episode, right when we finished our last episode when we talked about the back of Shazam's costume. We saw the front of it. Into it. We saw the front of it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as some leaked video footage, which is interesting. We're also going to be talking about the X-Men Dark Phoenix costumes. Right. We're also going to talk about some tidbits of information that we got from an Entertainment Weekly article regarding Avengers Infinity War. So before the news, it's no prize time. So a no prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We personally draw it for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. And last week's question of the week was... what was the strangest casting, in your opinion, for a Marvel or DC movie that actually ended up turning out okay? Yeah. And I have to say right off the bat, there was like no wrong answer to this. We got so many good answers, and they were all correct. This was the hardest no prize to deal out, I think. For a while, you and I were just saying, fuck it, everybody gets a no prize. But I think we narrowed it down to two. We had to narrow it down to two because there was no way we were going to narrow it down to one. Yeah, so we chose a Marvel answer and a DC answer. And who's the Marvel guy? So congratulations to Tim Brown. No, that's your guy. Yep. Go ahead and... All right, Tim Brown. Congratulations to Tim Brown for giving the answer of Michael Keaton as his strange casting that turned out okay. I think, this was sort of before my time. I think I was only like 3 when the movie came out. I think you were. But, according to everyone who was around before then, when fans did hear who was going to play Batman, they didn't really like it. It would be like the equivalent of, I don't know, who's like some intense comedian that's out today, like Dane Cook becoming Batman or something, being cast as Batman or something like that, Michael Keaton, Paul Rudd. Michael Keaton wasn't strictly a comedian. He was a comedic actor, but I wouldn't say he was a strictly comedian. But that being said, I could see where people might riot. And Tim was saying, like, thank God the internet didn't exist back then. I know. Because people would have talked so much shit about Michael Keaton being Batman. But it turned out pretty damn good. Yeah, for a lot of people, like, he is their Batman. Like, there is no other Batman. Like, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck. It's Michael Keaton. Yeah. And I understand that because I loved those films as a kid, too. To me, he's my Vulture. He'll always be a Vulture to me. He made a great Vulture. I also want to give a congratulations to Locken. That's how we pronounced it last time. Locken wins another no prize for his answer. Yeah, he gave the answer of Hugh Jackman, which was another surprise casting. As we all know, like Dougray Scott was supposed to be Wolverine. They even considered Russell Crowe for a while. Oh, really? But it was Russell Crowe that recommended Hugh Jackman, who was primarily known as like a songy, dancey type actor. Yeah, that's like really tall. Yeah, super tall. Lanky. not very rough, not very gruff. So I know a lot of people were up in arms. Nobody knew who he was. They're like, Hugh Grant? What? So I remember that being, quite the question mark. And I think once I saw a photo of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, like a promotional photo, I was like, okay, this guy was sold. This guy might be able to do it. But before that, it was a little weird. But it all happened so fast. From the moment they announced his casting to the moment we saw stills, there wasn't that much of a turnaround time. So thankfully, my personal answer would have been either like I really like actors who just kind of like disappear in the roles where I almost like don't recognize them. Yeah. So like I said, there was an obvious answer, and for me, the obvious answer was going to be Heath Ledger, just because like he had done like romantic comedies. He was like a pretty boy, but of course, he probably has what could arguably be considered like the greatest performance in a comic book film of all time. He's the only one who's won an Oscar for it, at least. And maybe like also like Danny DeVito. Yeah, that was actually a suggestion that our friend Baker gave to us. Yeah, and I was like, oh, absolutely, like Danny DeVito as like a villain, like an evil like sewer gross villain. He looks like a weird penguin guy, so I don't know. What? To me, he does. I don't know. I thought that those were my choices. Yes, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who gave an answer for this one. Off the top of my head, it was Adam and John Spees, Mike Cusick, Joel Seagrave, CJ Kraft. I'm probably missing a bunch of people. But yeah, shout out to all of you people for giving great answers. This was a great question of the week. Yeah, and stay tuned to later on in this episode during our news section for this week's question of the week for your chance to win a no prize. All right, on to the news. Okay, so this again, this happened like right when we were editing last week's episode. You're like, should we stop? Should I record something and send it to you real quick? I'm like, no, I'm editing. I was like, I'll pretend to do your voice. No one would ever confuse your voice for my voice. Wait, why? What? Why? Just because. No, okay, so Shazam, we mentioned last week how accurate it was to the comic. The back of his costume. The back of his costume. And seeing the front, it's the same thing. I like it more the more that I see it. I know it has a lot of haters out there, but this thing it has more texture than I thought it did. It does. When you get up close. Yeah. It almost has like... It has like ribbing or something. It's similar to Henry Cavill's kind of texture in a way. A little bit. I don't think it's quite as uniform. It has some like piping as well. Piping, though. Yeah. It's like a bright like RGB 00000 red. It's very saturated. Yeah. But you couldn't ask for a more faithful adaptation of the comic costume. And with color grading nowadays, not that I necessarily think that they'll like mute this too much, but if they want to keep it looking like the other DC films, they might. They might. Yeah, I mean, I personally don't have a problem with the costume. I'm interested in seeing how it'll look on film. There was some leaked video footage. The first leak was like of him stopping a bus. Yeah. Just like his reaction to it. He's like pumping his fist and just like super excited. He does like a little dance. Just done. Yeah. You could definitely see like the childness in his performance. Just kind of, it's blatant. It's there. It's definitely there. It's pretty funny. Is, how a kid would react if they stopped the bus. It's just picture that. That's exactly what he does. And we also, I mentioned last week, we saw like the back of Mark Strong as Dr. Savannah. Right. Here we get to see the front of him. He has the scar down the eye, just like in the comics. I'm looking at a photo of him right now where like he's holding Shazam's fist and he has his hand up against his throat. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. I mean, you don't need to do too much to look like Dr. Savannah. Just shave your head. And get a scar. So Dr. Savannah doesn't have any powers other than that he can see magic or something like that in the comics, yes? In the New 52 version, yeah. But one of the videos that was leaked, he must have just like knocked Shazam onto like a police car. And like he's just walking up to him really menacingly. And like there's these cops who are pointing their guns at him. And he just like waves his hand. And I don't know if they're gonna like have some kind of like energy or like lightning come out of his hand, but like the guns definitely like fly out of their hands and they get knocked back. Maybe it's telekinesis or something. Maybe. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of, again, these photos have turned people off, but maybe I'm just excited that they're making a DC film. Like I'll take anything I could get, pretty much. Beggars can't be choosers. Exactly. But not that even I'm choosing, because again, I like it. You can't really be upset at something that is essentially off the page. Right. What do you think about the lightning bolt on the chest? It's bright yellow. Do you think they're going to put in some kind of effect there? Yeah, I do. It's just a little bit too green screeny for me. Not that it's green. Yeah. But I think they're going to do something with it. You think it'll just be like lightning inside of it? Or what do you think it'll look like? The Kirby crackle? You think it'll have the Kirby crackle? Oh, the Kirby crackle. Yeah, hopefully. We can only hope. That's kind of what it looks like in the New 52 comics. I'm really looking forward to some kind of teaser. I'm really looking forward to seeing, because like the rumor is that he's going to be fighting not only Dr. Savannah, but like Dr. Savannah like unleashes like the 7 deadly sins. Or is that just my theory? That was your theory. No, because like in the synopsis it says that he like awakens this ancient evil or something. Yeah, and your theory was the 7 deadly sins. It's either going to be like the 3 demons with like the bell, the wheel, and the jar, or it's going to be the 7 deadly sins. Okay, I don't know what that means. That's like super obscure. Don't worry about it. Okay. I can't wait to see more, essentially, is what I'm saying. I can't wait to see more from this film. Yeah. Yep. All right, so speaking of costumes being revealed in leaked set photos and videos, we got a first look at the X-Men Dark Phoenix costumes, and it's kind of like a return to form to the costumes and what they look like in X-Men First Class. Yeah, that's what I thought. Which I thought was a great like first iteration of the X-Men uniforms. Yeah. I'm not quite as excited to see that in this X-Men Dark Phoenix film, because at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, they all had like more comic accurate. Yeah, they costumes. Had essentially their 90s costumes on, which is something that I really wanted to see. It's what I've been wanting to see since the X-Men films first started coming out in the year 2000. I've been wanting to see these 90s X-Men costumes, and they're fucking robbing us of that again. So I'm not super excited. Like I think why does that happen? We've mentioned before in talking about this film, now that the rights to the X-Men may be going to Marvel at the end of this year if that deal gets approved, and I've mentioned that I'm not really excited about X-Men Dark Phoenix anymore because it seems like it's obsolete. Mm-hmm. This makes me even less excited. Like how low my excitement level was before, it's even lower than that, because these costumes, they look straight from the Frank Quitely, Grant Morrison X-Men run. Yeah, except from the early 2000s. Instead of they didn't go black, they went blue. Yeah, it's like an amalgamation of those costumes with the big X on the chest, the big yellow X. That in First Class. Yeah, at least give them different colors. Like make Jean Grey like green. Yeah, and make like Nightcrawler like red. Yeah, that would be with like a black X. That would have been badass. Yes. It looks like Mystique is wearing suspenders for some reason. She's not wearing the same outfit as the other X-Men. But they're also surrounded by a group of what appears to be astronauts. So it looks like they're working with some kind of space program to go into space, probably. Which is, I mean, it's what you've always wanted. It's what you want. It's what you want to see. I mean, it's a departure for the series, in a series in which we've seen almost everything. I think they've kind of exhausted the X-Men movie franchise to this point, but we haven't seen him in space yet. So that's probably the thing that I'm looking forward to the most in this film. Certainly not the costumes. Seriously, what the hell?
Moving on to the Avengers Infinity War article. Did you read that?
No, because I didn't want to spoil myself, but I did look up like a lot of the articles about it.
Yeah.
It seems like the article is full of a lot of spoilers, and so I don't want to talk about a lot of them, but I do want to talk about 2 points that I don't really consider too big of spoilers, more just like little insightful bits of information, rather. But if you don't want to hear about any of this, go ahead and look in our episode description for this episode, and you can see the chapter times, and you could go ahead and skip ahead to the next topic for this episode. So we'll give you about like 5 seconds to do that. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. The Avengers, it turns out that the Soul Stone is not in Wakanda, which is what we all assumed. There was a comment by one of the Russo brothers, who are the directors of the film, who said that, quote, Vision is a living MacGuffin. Obviously, that raises the stakes because Vision's life is in danger, and his life is in conflict with Thanos' goals. So something's got to give. Cat makes the decision to bring Vision here to Wakanda. Earth is making its last stand to keep the stone from Thanos. Is the best place to make your last stand. Because he mentions that Wakanda has never been conquered.
Right.
So the Soul Stone's not in Wakanda. They fight in Wakanda because that's where they're keeping Vision. And I don't know if Thanos has already gotten the Time Gem and the Soul Gem and all the other gems by this point. I don't know if the Vision's Mind Stone in his forehead is the last gem that he needs. But either way, that it's going to be the climax of this film.
I'm super confused. I guess I always thought that the Soul Gem was going to be in Wakanda.
Are they also going to be defending Doctor Strange in Wakanda? Because he has an Infinity Stone too. He's not the only Earthling.
Well, no, Doctor Strange is with like Iron Man and Spider-Man on the other planet, whatever that is.
They're on Titan. Okay, that was the other piece of insightful information
like
that I wanted to... Yeah, the Titan, where the...
that's where Thanos is from.
Yeah, where the Eternals are from. And Thanos being kind of like a deformed member of the Eternals. So there's a quote by Kevin Feige in regards to this where he says, he's from a planet called Titan that's no longer inhabited because of the things that he thought he could help prevent, and he was not allowed to do that. What he feared most happened, and the planet and everybody on it basically went extinct. He vowed not to let that happen again. He thinks he sees the universe going down the tubes. He thinks he sees life expanding outward unchecked. That will bring ruin, he believes, to the universe and to that life. End quote. So basically...
That makes his motivation a little bit more than just like loving death.
No, yes, his motivations are much more complex than they were in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, which was to...
impress Death.
Well, it was to fulfill Death's order to rebalance the universe, because she thought the fact that there were more people alive than had ever died at the time was a grave cosmic imbalance. So he sought to right that by killing half the universe. In this one, they kind of leave out the whole Lady Death thing. And it's more about he saw the population of his home planet grow out of control and, consume resources and it eventually just destroy the planet, essentially. And so he sees that happening with the universe as a whole, not just his planet, his home planet. So that's his motivation for this one. He's seeking to kind of bring balance to life in the universe.
Do you like that?
It's a little bit more of a practical motivation. It has less to do with his enamoration of death, which I always thought was not a bad motivation, but a simpler one. And I always like my villains to have complex motivations because I think it leads them to be more interesting.
It's a little political.
It might be a statement on overpopulation, but I don't think they'll play it too heavy-handed. I think it'll be interesting. I like it as a motivation, and I think Josh Brolin will really deliver on that. And it kind of adds context to the lines that we heard him say in the trailer,
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Anyway, those were the 2 insightful tidbits of information that we got from the Entertainment Weekly article, in addition to all the cool photos that came out. I don't think they were too spoiler heavy, but it's good to know. It's things that I wanted to know before seeing the film, basically. And all I have to question now is, where the fuck is the Soul Stone? And that brings us to our question of the week. Question of the week is, where the fuck is the Soul Stone? It's
Okay, so other than the Heimdall theory, where do you think the Soul Stone could be? We're looking for like brilliant original theories here. Go as wacky and crazy with your theories as you want, and we'll pick our favorite one, and we'll draw them up a no prize and post it to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Go ahead and search for Dynamic Duel Podcast on those platforms as you can find us. Or you can email us your answer at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say, because I am completely spent. I have no idea where it is.
Yeah.
No ideas.
And we don't want to hear Heimdall, because that's already a well-established theory.
I actually forgot about that. Heimdall. I guess that's...
The theory is that that Thanos attacks the ship that the Asgardians are on, that Heimdall is on, and Heimdall has the Soul Stone inside of him or something.
That could basically be his first
and
stone.
Thanos gets it.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I would kind of hate that if that were the case, though.
I would hate that too, because it's too easy. Everybody already thinks that. So let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Just get creative. All right.
Maybe one of us will be right.
All right. That does it for the news. Let's go ahead and talk about who'd win in a fight between Green Lantern and Nova.
All right, Green Lantern versus Nova. We chose this battle because essentially, I think the reason was Nova's a ripoff of Green Lantern.
What?
And I think that's why we went with it.
Okay. Well, kind of. Basically, it's Space Cop versus Space Cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both the Green Lantern Corps and the Nova Corps are like intergalactic
peacekeeping
space militia.
Yeah. I guess
that's a good way to describe them. So they have a lot in common. They're both super powerful, and
they're both energy.
They both have badass
like,
costumes. I think.
Yeah, they both look cool. Yeah,
yeah.
Green Lantern is like one of those like really simple. It's just classic. It's a
design.
classic look.
Yeah.
And actually, I drew Nova for the No Prize this last time. He has a pretty sweet costume.
I love his updated costume that they did during the Annihilation event.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was a great update, because it was kind of cheesy the way it was before.
Oh, with like the ball, like the sun fireballs and like the lightning
On his
between
chest.
them.
Yeah. And now it's like lit up. It looks a lot more like kind of techie, but not too techie, you know?
Yeah, it looks more like a Green Lantern with like the glowing circle.
No.
Yeah,
No.
a little bit.
Glowing circle?
Yeah.
Green Lantern does have a glowing circle on his costume.
The chest, the circle in the middle of his chest.
The lantern?
Yeah, the lantern.
It doesn't glow.
In some depictions,
Whatever.
I've seen it glow.
Fake fan. It doesn't glow. I guess with Kyle
Green Lantern
Rayner,
symbol.
it glowed.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not talking about Kyle Rayner. We're talking about Hal Jordan.
Talking about Hal Jordan. Talking about Richard Rider. I'm surprised I knew that. So just to give you a heads up, if you're unfamiliar with how these duels and these battles work, we try and keep them as mathematical as possible.
Yes.
So there's, we're both really biased. So we keep everything down to the numbers. Everything is based on numbers and
stats.
Statistics. There's no fan votes, no uncharacteristic feats of strength, just all stats, all math, all the time.
Yeah, we use the stats and we plug them into a spreadsheet in which we run a mathematical system that uses the Monte Carlo method, which places those stats along a bell curve randomly. Mm-hmm. And then we add the totals up and compare them against each other 1,000 times.
And those comparisons are essentially our battles. It's a spreadsheet simulation of just comparing these two characters and running those numbers against each other 1,000 times to simulate battles.
Yes. Most of the stats that we get are based on the official Marvel Power Rankings.
Right.
And we extrapolate the DC stats from those.
Right.
We also include a few other stats as well, besides the ones that they just list there.
Yeah. But before we run those simulations, we like to give a breakdown and profile of the characters, of their history, and of their abilities.
Yep.
So I think I start.
I think you do.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, in the chip match against Rocket Raccoon, the Green Lantern Corps is an intergalactic peacekeeping force created by the ancient alien race known as the Guardians of the Universe of the planet Oa. They divided the universe...
What a ripoff of Guardians of the Galaxy.
No. I'm just kidding. They divided the universe into 3,600 sectors and bestowed courageous inhabitants within those sectors powerful ring weapons that allow the wielder to create or do anything they can willfully imagine. Earth is in Sector 2814 and is protected by a few human Green Lanterns, most notably Hal Jordan. But before he was a Green Lantern, Hal Jordan was a test pilot living in Coast City, just like his father. Despite the fact that Hal witnessed his father die in a plane accident, he was inspired by his courage and bravery and wanted to be just like him, to the dismay of his family. It was because of said courage that Hel was chosen by the Green Lantern Ring to be the successor of its former wielder, the alien Abin Sur. Now, Abin Sur was mortally wounded while transporting a dangerous prisoner named Atrocitus to Earth. His ring left him to find a replacement, and it found Hal Jordan. It chose him. Hal soon left Earth to train on Oa under the Green Lantern Kilowog. He learned how to use and recharge his ring, and learned of the ring's mysterious weakness to the color yellow. The Guardians eventually sent Hal back to Earth with the veteran Green Lantern Sinestro to investigate Abin Sur's death. The two realized that Atrocitus was still loose on Earth, and together they took him down. Now, while placing Atrocitus back in his prison, Atrocitus prophesied to Sinestro, saying that he foresaw Sinestro's home planet, Korugar, to be soon descending into a civil war and chaos. Now, afraid for his home planet, Sinestro ended up conquering it to instill order and rule over it with fear. Hal, who by this time had proven himself a capable and trustworthy Green Lantern, learned of what Sinestro had done and informed the Guardians. The Guardians stripped Sinestro of his ring and banished him to the antimatter universe, where Sinestro would acquire the yellow power ring, or a yellow power ring, and become the embittered arch-nemesis of Hal Jordan. While Hal was out in space, the villains Mongol and Cyborg Superman destroyed Coast City, his home city, and all of its 7 million inhabitants.
Whoa, 7 million.
Yeah, the damage was done, and in his grief, Hal used his ring to recreate Coast City and its inhabitants. He seemingly drifted into insanity, conversing with the fabricated ghosts of his family and friends who had died. It was too much of an energy drain on his ring, however, and the false reality couldn't be maintained. Reprimanded by the Guardians and summoned to Oa to face charges of using the ring's power for personal use, Hal defied the Corps, killing most of its members and all but one of the Guardians. He absorbed all of the energy from the central power battery that powered all of the Green Lantern rings and then destroyed it.
How do you redeem yourself from something like that, from killing all of the Guardians?
Yeah, well, you will learn.
Okay.
He became the villain Parallax, and with his new immense power, Parallax began altering the timeline to fit his ideal version of order and perfection in an event known as 0 Hour. Now, comic fans hated this mischaracterization, so after DC's heroes stopped Parallax from rewriting history, they tried to redeem him by later using his power to reignite our extinguished sun, sacrificing his life to do so, and then later turning him into the new Spectre, the superhero spirit of vengeance. Now, there was a trilogy written by Jeff Johns that would prove not only beneficial to the story of Hal Jordan, but to the very mythos of DC itself. In the storyline Green Lantern Rebirth, we learned that there is an emotional electromagnetic spectrum, that green was the color of willpower and courage, and yellow was the color of fear. When sentience first began in the universe, entities were born that fed off of the spectrum. The yellow fear entity was a parasite called Parallax, and the Guardians trapped it within the central power battery, as green willpower was the most stable and most pure form of spectral energy, and the strongest, with which to contain Parallax. It turned out to be the source for the Green Lantern's weaknesses to yellow, and the reason for Hal Jordan's villainous turn.
So the reason the Green Lanterns were weak to the color yellow was because Parallax was stored in the central Green Lantern power battery.
Right.
Okay, makes sense.
Since the central power battery powered each lantern, Parallax was able to sense Hal Jordan's potential, and it slowly infected him over time. It took control during Hal's horrified reaction to the destruction of Coast City, and was responsible for his subsequent actions, including destroying the central power battery, which freed Parallax, and Parallax was bound to Hal's soul. The Spectre's spirit of vengeance and Parallax battled over Hal as a host, with the Spectre proving victorious. Kyle Rayner, the human and last Green Lantern after Hal's destruction of the Corps, brought Hal's body back from its Owen burial site with the last surviving Guardian, named Ganthet. Now, Sinestro appeared, and admitted to being a servant of Parallax this whole time. Hal's soul rebonded with his remains, thanks to the power of Ganthet and the Spectre, and he was reborn, he was resurrected.
Okay.
He defeated Sinestro and banished him to the antimatter universe again, and rebuilt the central power battery, and in effect, rebuilding the Corps. Now, Sinestro responded by creating his own Corps of Yellow Lanterns, creating an intergalactic war between the two armies. The Sinestro Corps recruited members that had the ability to instill great fear, which meant its ranks contained some of the most powerful villains in the DC universe, including the universe-destroying Anti-Monitor. As Hal Jordan led the Green Lanterns in numerous battles, 5 new Corps offshoots emerged in the chaos. The Red Lantern Corps, led by Atrocitus, who fed on rage. The Orange Lantern Corps, led by the greedy alien named Larfleeze. The Blue Lantern Corps, led by Ganthet, whose members include the holiest saint-like beings of the universe. There's also the mysterious Indigo Tribe and the Star Sapphires, whose violet energy is powered by love, and includes Hal Jordan's old sweetheart, Carol Ferris. The emotionless entity known as Necron, basically death itself, created its own corps of undead, zombified heroes and villains. Hal Jordan was forced to fight Aquaman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and countless other heroes who had died in the battle and were reborn as Black Lanterns. Eventually, Hal Jordan discovered the entity responsible for the creation of the universe and let it bond with his soul in the same way that Parallax had previously, becoming a White Lantern, resurrecting his undead super friends and conquering death. Because of his leadership, Hal Jordan was made an honorary guardian and promoted to leader of the Green Lanterns.
Oh, cool.
So, power-wise, with his Green Lantern ring, Hal Jordan is primarily capable of creating green, hard light constructs and is only limited by his willpower and imagination. He has proven to have one of the most indomitable wills in the entire universe, making his constructs more powerful than any other Green Lantern member. His ring also grants him super strength, speed, durability, and it can scan environments and other beings.
How strong is he?
As strong as he wants to be.
Dumb.
As strong as his willpower allows him to be.
That backstory, it was just way too complicated.
After Rebirth, like, there were seeds leading into Blackest Night from when Jeff Johns took over.
It goes back to kind of like my issues with the character itself, in that a lot of his lore and everything like that, you just have to accept at face value. Like, it doesn't make sense, but just go with it.
These are some of like the coolest stories that have been written with, like, in the past, since the dawn of the new millennium, and they were really well received. They were really well written. They were really good. I think maybe if you're reading the series, it's not as convoluted as you think, and it's actually pretty interesting. It's a great mythos.
If you say so. Okay.
I do say so.
Nova's much better, and I'll tell you why. We'll get into his backstory. Okay. So, the Nova Corps is a space militia from the planet Xandar that protects and explores the Andromeda Galaxy. You may remember them from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie as the Xandarian police-like force that flew in cool-looking starships and helped the Ravagers fight Ronin. In the comics, however, they can fly on their own and fire powerful energy pulses and beams. The Nova Corps derives its power from the Nova Force, which you saw them use briefly in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie when they linked ships to create a force field. It's an unlimited source of gravimetric energy regulated by a sentient supercomputer known as the Xandarian World Mind.
What the fuck is gravimetric?
Gravity.
Okay.
The Xandarian World Mind grants a fraction of the Nova Force to the Corps men and women depending on their rank in the Nova Corps. The leader of the Corps has access to the greatest amount of the Nova Force and is called a Nova Prime. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Good. I want to make this less complicated than Green Lanterns. A Nova Prime by the name of Roman Day, who was played by John C. Reilly in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, he was the last surviving corpsman of Xandar when the planet was destroyed by a space pirate named Zor. Mortally wounded, Roman Day flew toward Earth to intercept Zor from destroying this planet as well. Knowing he wouldn't reach it in time, he transmitted the Nova Force toward Earth for the power to be bestowed on a random person. The transmission struck an unsuspecting New York teenager named Richard Rider, making him the new Nova Prime and granting him his suit and powers. Richard was able to defeat Zor with help of Roman Day's dying act. And then he found himself with these new amazing superpowers, but with little knowledge of where they came from or how to use them. He gradually developed his powers over time as a crime fighter and as a member of the New Warriors superhero team, where he went by the name Kid Nova, though the only powers he knew he had were flight, strength, and invulnerability. Richard struggled to maintain his dual life as a costume superhero and a student, and eventually failed and dropped out of high school. He made ends meet at his day job flipping burgers at Marvel Burger, and would save the world on his lunch break or after work. Eventually, Richard was discovered by a supernova, or a member of the Black Ops sect of the Nova Corps. They have black helmets instead of gold helmets. And the supernova led him to the rebuilt planet of Xandar, where they used his Nova Force power to restore the Xandarian world mind supercomputer. With its biological knowledge of the Xandarian population, the world mind was able to clone and restore the planet's people, as well as the Nova Corps.
Oh.
Richard learned more about his powers then, including his ability to channel the Nova Force, and he became a member of the Corps as a protector of the Terran sector. He fulfilled that role as the protector of the Terran sector for quite a while in the Nova Corps when Annihilation Day happened. Marvel's Annihilation event was one of its greatest cosmic-level story arcs, where the ruler of the Negative Zone named Annihilus and his seemingly infinite army of insectoids obliterated much of the Marvel Universe in an effort to destroy it. Their wave of destruction included Xandar and the entire Nova Corps. Richard was the only survivor, and the World Mind asked him to host its data and the entire Nova Force to save Xandar's future, granting him immensely increased power to fight off the invading threat. He formed alliances with cosmic heroes such as the Silver Surfer, Star-Lord, Quasar, Ronan the Accuser, Drax, Gamora, and anyone who's anyone in the Marvel Cosmic Universe in order to stop Annihilus. Hundreds of alien races and even Galactus joined Nova to fight back the wave, and in the end, it was Nova who landed the final blow as he ripped Annihilus's insides out from his mouth. Like a badass.
What the heck?
The Annihilation event severely changed Richard's personality, going from a humorous, laid-back guy to a more hard-edged, darker veteran who had witnessed the death of entire planets, including Xandar's. The stress of trying to fulfill the entire former Nova Corps' duty became too much for him, and he traveled back to Earth, where he discovered that many of his former New Warriors teammates died in the Stamford incident that led to the superhero civil war between Iron Man and Captain America. So as you can see, life was really raining shit on Richard Rider at this point in time. So he left Earth again to tackle more cosmic threats, which were kind of like his new specialty. He succeeded in helping defeat the techno-parasitic alien race known as the Phalanx, led by Ultron. He helped start the Guardians of the Galaxy with Star-Lord. He helped fight off an invasion of Skrulls.
A new version
on
of
Earth.
it?
Yeah, the version in the Marvel 616 timeline. He helped fight off an invasion of Skrulls on Earth, and he helped save the universe from the spread of an evil mirror universe called the Cancerverse. It was there that he and Star-Lord trapped themselves and Thanos for all eternity, though Richard was able to send Star-Lord home using the Cosmic Cube, and he was able to escape with the help of a new supernova by the name of Sam Alexander. He did lose the world mind in the process of escaping the Cancerverse, but I imagine that's just temporary, as they're going to want to rebuild Xandar again sometime in the near future.
Too bad he doesn't get it in the fight. He doesn't have it.
Yeah, he does, because that's kind of his thing.
Ugh.
So his powers, as the custodian of the entire Nova Force, Richard has access to all of its energy at a level that rivals the power cosmic.
Silver Surfer.
The Silver Surfer wields the power cosmic.
Well, really, isn't it Galactus who grants it?
He bestows it upon them. So, like the Silver Surfer, Nova is now considered one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He can easily lift well over 10,000 tons, can run at speeds of several hundred miles per hour, and fly at speeds faster than the speed of light as a means to traverse hyperspace. The Nova Force shields him from physical attacks, rendering him so durable. He once survived a blast from Galactus that destroyed several solar systems. And on the rare occasion he does get hurt, he can use the Nova Force to rapidly heal damaged tissue. He can channel it from his body in blasts so powerful they can turn a planet's surface to ash. His gravimetric pulses also grant him some control over gravity, where he can nullify its effect or increase an opponent's personal gravity to slow them down. He also has access to the World Mind supercomputer, which grants him almost limitless knowledge. Not necessarily of the Green Lantern Corps, of course, but it has a scan feature that can analyze enemies and their energy signatures. It also increases the accuracy of his Nova blasts to within millimeters.
Everything you just said.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Everything you just said, Green Lantern can do, and then some. When did the Annihilation Wave story happen? Do you know? That sounds a lot like Green Lantern.
That was like 2006.
Because instead of coming from the negative zone, like Sinestro came from the antimatter universe with his army, and it just ugh.
Yeah, this happened
Rip off.
2006. I think Green Lantern Rebirth happened in like 2007 or something. I don't know.
No, that's when the Sinestro War actually happened.
Oh, whatever. Okay, so now that we got their bios out of the way, let's speculate how we think one of these 1,000 simulations that we're going to run is going to go. Basically, when we discuss how we think the fight will go, we don't take the environment into consideration because we don't take stats for the environment.
Right.
So they're basically fighting in a vacuum. We'll say the vacuum of space in which the environment does not play a factor.
Right.
Because,
It's too variable. We don't account for it. So how do you see this fight starting off?
Well, they're going to start 50 yards apart.
Right.
They know that each other are threats, but they don't know anything else about each other. So they're going to appear on the battlefield, and they know that they got to fight. So I think Nova is probably going to start off with a blast. So he's going to shoot a Nova blast at Green Lantern.
Okay. So the Nova blast comes at Green Lantern, and Green Lantern puts up a bubble shield, a bubble force field.
Okay.
And his ring scans the energy that it just received and recognizes it as gravimetric energy or
Nova force.
Gravity-based energy.
And meanwhile, World Mind is also scanning Green Lantern and recognizing it as an unrecognizable energy source, but definitely tracking it. It can notice energy flare-ups and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So you can't really do something from behind, like a wrecking ball from behind.
So it's like a cosmic sense?
It grants him a sort of cosmic awareness, yes.
Cosmic awareness, that's right.
Yes.
Okay. Who gives a shit?
Okay.
Green Lantern creates a giant hammer and he sends it crashing down on Nova.
Okay, so Nova gets hit by the hammer, but doesn't really hurt that much because it's just a fucking hammer.
It's a giant hammer.
Who cares? It's a giant hammer, big whoop. It's gonna maybe knock him back a little bit, but it's gonna literally not hurt him at all because the Nova Force is so strong. It's gonna knock him back, but it's not gonna hurt him. So he's gonna be like, what the hell? So he's gonna fly at him at Nova Force speed with his fist out, and he's gonna ram right into Green Lantern.
Okay. So Green Lantern, as he's flying backwards, creates these jets that stop him from flying backwards. And then he creates this huge battering ram and it slams it into Nova at light speed.
At light speed?
Yeah.
Nova dodges the battering ram at light speed. He sees it coming, and because World Mind detects the flare-up that is rushing at him at light speed, so he dodges just enough to the side at light speed.
Okay, so the World Mind is just they're always with him.
Yes.
Is there any way to sever that?
No, it's like his second mind kind of. It's always talking to him, always giving him tips, always analyzing.
Oh, it's like the fucking ring. Okay.
The ring isn't sentient.
The ring is sentient.
You told me last episode that the ring was not sentient.
It's sort of sentient.
Oh my god. Okay.
It could talk to him. Okay, so he dodges the ram.
Yeah.
And it dissipates. So then Hal Jordan creates armor. He creates this huge, bulky, sharp armor.
Yeah, and Nova shoots the armor and just explodes it.
No, the armor takes the blast.
Yeah, and it explodes because of how strong the blast is.
It doesn't explode. He holds it together with his willpower. And then he goes...
What?
Yeah.
No, this is a super powerful Nova blast. It's too powerful. You can't just hold on to your armor. You can't just be like, oh, my armor got it. This is planet-destroying blast. How does it not at least crack the armor?
Okay, well then the armor explodes, but then he just reforms it around him.
Okay. Doesn't it expel some of his health or energy or anything like that to have his constructs destroyed? Doesn't he have to really concentrate to keep them together? And if they end up shattering or something like that, it's it hurts him or weakens him?
No, they just break. Does it hurt his will? Does it hurt him on the inside?
Does it hurt him to have his constructs break?
Oh, no.
So if you hit one of his shields hard enough, he doesn't get any sort of feedback damage from that.
If he's wearing armor and you break the armor, yeah, he's going to get knocked back. He's going to get the physical impact of having his armor broken, essentially.
Okay, so that's what happens.
So then Green Lantern's armor is broken. He'll just let it be broken. But as it's breaking apart, he shoots a blast at Nova that's, I don't know, powerful enough to destroy a red supergiant.
A red supergiant. That would have to expend most of Green Lantern's energy. Would it not? A blast that big? I mean, Nova could do that blast too, but the Nova Force is unlimited.
So you really want to drain Hal Jordan's?
I'm just saying he's doing it himself. I don't really want to. I'm not saying what he's doing, but yeah, he's running out of energy from a blast that big, which Nova survives, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. but he's seriously probably hurt, even protected by the Nova Force. He's still alive, but the Nova Force is probably working on healing his body a little bit. He might have like a broken bone or two at this point.
So as he's healing, Green Lantern summons his power battery from the dimensional fold he keeps it in and charges his ring really fast.
Green Lantern's so fucking stupid. Okay, so now Nova's pissed, and the Nova Force is just radiating off his body in like a supernova, kind of. And he shoots Green Lantern with a blast that would destroy what's bigger than a red supergiant. A white supergiant.
What?
I don't know. And it just totally turns Green Lantern into green dust, sparkles.
Well, I mean, Hal Jordan has survived like supernova explosions, you know?
Uh-huh.
I mean, this is gonna hurt him, but he's still in the match. He's still in the battle. No, you know what he does? He's
as durable as Nova, whose power pretty much is invulnerability.
He's the most powerful Green Lantern in the universe.
That means nothing to me. Is he as powerful as Nova?
Yes.
So he can survive a blast from Galactus, Green Lantern.
Sure, why not?
What the fuck ever, man.
He can survive blasts from the Anti-Monitor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. That'll work. I'll allow that.
This is it's almost futile. Okay, so he sends that blast at him, but what Green Lantern does is he creates this tube that's like in a horseshoe. So the blast goes in one end of the tube, and then it siphons out through the other end of the tube and aims it right back at Nova.
And then he absorbs the Nova Force that he just shot out. He can absorb, he absorbs energy, especially the Nova Force. But yeah, one of his abilities is to absorb energy.
Okay, so he reabsorbs his energy, and then what?
And then just back and forth. He shoots him again, and then he gets redirected. So
I'm trying to think of something really cool to create. I did like a power suit of armor. I did a ram. I guess that's cool.
So at this point, he creates a gravimetric field around Green Lantern's ring. So he increases the gravity of Green Lantern's ring and makes it so heavy that it slips off his finger. And then he's in a weakened Hal Jordan state, at which point he gets blasted the F out of here.
That was a good move, actually.
Yeah!
The power ring, sensing that it was on him, flew out of this. It had enough power to fly out of this gravitational field back onto Hal Jordan's finger. It converted Hal Jordan into energy to store within the ring as the blast went over him, and then it sent him back outside the ring.
The ring did this all on its own?
Yes.
It shouldn't be able to do things like turn its user into pure energy.
I've seen it happen.
That's dumb. All right, let's take it to the stats.
All right.
We'll be right back with the winner.
That's probably the universe being destroyed by this fight.
Yeah, the stats for both of these characters are just off the charts.
They're like maxed out on almost everything.
Well, I mean, not really, but they're probably the highest stats that we've seen for any character ever. Having trouble trying to even think of someone who would be able to beat any of these two characters.
Right. Hal Jordan was a little bit, he was a better fighter.
We accounted for the world mind in Nova's helmet in this battle and found him to be, it kind of gave him the strategic edge.
Right.
So,
and like Green Lantern, he does have access to like universal information, but it's not always being fed to him. It's not like a second mind. He has to talk to the ring.
And Nova does have access to download Xandarian fighting styles and stuff like that, but I would imagine that would take a brief moment and maybe a moment that he doesn't have during the course of this battle. So
yeah, I'm surprised I haven't had enough time to recharge Hal Jordan's ring.
It was a good speculation on the fight, but we did run the numbers, the 1,000 simulations, and we came away with a de facto winner that you can tell all your friends about because Nova won.
Ah!
So this is revenge for Rocket Raccoon. A few Christmases ago when we did the Chip versus Rocket Raccoon fight.
There's no way Hal Jordan would lose. He just wouldn't stop fighting. It's like his willpower just
he'll
caused
stop
him
fighting
to keep going.
When his heart stops beating.
That would happen. What was the percentage?
The percentage of matches that Nova won over Green Lantern was 59.8%. So out of the 1,000 matches, Nova won 598 of those battles.
That's actually more than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot closer.
No, we're talking about Nova.
Fuck off.
Thank God, because I think I've bitched a lot throughout the course of this podcast about how overpowered Green Lantern is. And I think I can finally put that to rest.
Then you have
now.
characters like Nova and Black Bolt who are just like impossible to beat.
I have come to peace. I mean, because Nova himself is incredibly overpowered, but that's kind of his thing because he only tackles threats that threaten the entire universe. You know, that's like his thing now. Congratulations to Marvel for pulling off another win. Although I think overall, we're
you're one behind.
One or two behind DC in terms of overall verse matches. So we have to remedy that in our next duel.
What is the next versus duel?
That'll be in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's right. It's Hawkgirl versus Jessica Jones.
Right. And in our next episode, we will be reviewing Jessica Jones.
Right.
I haven't watched any of it yet, so I'm really going to have to binge it over the course of this week and this weekend. So
I haven't heard anything about it either, like surprisingly.
Yeah, I haven't read too much. I've heard that it's good. If it even gets a little bit below the quality of the first season, it'll still meet my expectations. So, but we'll be talking about that in our next episode, and that'll be in 7 days. Go ahead and subscribe to us if you haven't already. If you're a new listener, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and go ahead and rate us and review us on whatever platform you are currently listening on, if you feel the desire to do so.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, if you get the chance, check out our website, dynamicduel.com. Not only do we have links to all of our episodes there and, you know, all the different various sites that host our podcast, but we also have links to our merchandise, some dope-ass t-shirt designs we sell. And what else do we have there? I think that's it.
Links to social media.
Yeah, links to social media. So go ahead and follow us on those platforms as well.
Yeah, that does it for this episode. So we'll go ahead and talk to you guys next week.
Up and away.
True believers.